Hello, everyone. I'm Veronica Entwistle, and I'm channeling a wonderful group of beings called MIRICRIS. And they like to give us a spiritual perspective on a lot of the world events, the politics, and so on that is going on. And I'm eager to channel them and talk to you about what's up. But in the meantime, this is Lori Dovey, who's a wonderful character, and she's a wizard on how all this goes together. And she's going to talk for a minute here, too.
Hi,
Welcome,
everybody.
Lori. Mhm.
Thank you. Hi, V. Hi,
Hi.
MIRICRIS to be. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. It's been an amazing week. Our subscribers are growing by leaps and bounds, and we so appreciate it. It's a way to really get the information out there in the world and for us to help each other. And we're in a lot of gratitude. So thank you for having pushed that button very consciously. Subscribers push the button, and to subscribe is free. So if you want to share the link for the channel, as you know, it's all free. We don't even have a membership. So everything is free that we do. And except for the readings that that Veronica does, and she's available for readings through veronicaentwistle@gmail.com. And you'll see her information in the community board in the description down below.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
And this is really exciting. One of the things that Miracris really loves is conscious evolution. So, in the middle of talking about some of the grueling events and so on, they want you to know that there's a lot of energy moving through to help you and I awaken the cellular structures in us that wants to evolve us. So, I'll just take a minute and call them in right now. We are here and we are pleased to be discussing these matters with you all. The world is in turmoil, but we assure you all that the turmoil can be a predicator from an evolution. Much of that is your choice. You understand? But in the meantime, protecting one another and protecting huge numbers of people is very important as well. And you have questions, Lori. Would you like to direct those first and
Mhm.
foremost?
Hi, Mary Chris. As we get tired in the fight to maintain our rights and freedom, what can we do to energize ourselves?
Lots of breathing, but also we recommend that you do the art of bringing in light. What it does is we always recommend bringing in streams of light from as far as you can imagine, infinity plus one, and draw down the streams of light until you can feel them running through your body. The reason for that is it gives your body a different vibration, and that in turn will move you through all kinds of blocks in life and will actually inspire other people who stand by you. So we're looking at evolution here as a part of what's going on in the terrible turbulence of your countries against each other. You understand?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, Mary Chris, I would say if we had an analogy to a hurricane, we have crested towards the eye of the storm. We
Yes.
are probably in the middle of it right now, I think, in terms of the timeline. And now one would say, oh, it should be calmer. But I think what's happened is we now know what we're dealing with. I think.
Well, you understand that you have a key figure here which is changing the course of events for the Russia Ukraine debacle and all the relationships to Europe that come through that. And that is your Mr. Trump. And we don't like to just scapegoat one person or another, but he's a key activator of separation. And you know this, this is not news, but it's working all around Europe and it's also working with the Russia Ukraine situation. You
Mhm.
understand that?
Yes, and so what is happening with the European consolidation around the ceasefire talks amongst the EU amongst themselves in regards to Russia and Ukraine?
Very deep anxiety, very deep fear, because much of Europe has been in war before. You understand that? And
Mhm.
they know they're trying to work with the consciousness or the preferences and choices of people from the different countries who are in charge, but it's very tricky. There's always protocol to trip over. There's a great deal of animosity about America at this point throughout Europe. You see
Mhm.
why?
Mhm.
It's because you understand why, Lori, do
Mhm.
you?
Yeah, yeah. Donald is applying a lot of pressure.
And there are many people are asking, why is this happening? Why does it have to go on this way? Well, Russia, as you know, wants to maintain an old style of what Russia was, USSR, but it also just is very egregious about wanting to run the world. It wants to be the world power. America has seemed to be the world power. That is changing very quickly right now. But the other thing is there is a kind of an encircling power issue going around the world where the right wing governments are connected as if they're in the same team, which in essence they are. We go back to vibrations that we say that as they connect more and more without being broken apart, it's a circle without being broken apart by what used to be the American role. What happens is that they all can control all of the population on the planet with very extreme authoritarian principles. You know that.
Mhm.
Now, what we're seeing is that is making a lot of the decisions that are coming from Russia. Really, Russia is one of the instigators of the empowerment of that kind of encircling and has been for 20 years. You know that for
Mhm.
many, many
Mhm.
years. And
And
it's coming to a head.
mhm. Yes, it is. And we know that Trump, I'm going to say Trump because that was his name. Trump is now telling Ukraine they have to repay their the aid, the military aid that the US gave them, that they need to repay it in minerals. So, yes.
And they cannot do that. And he just wants their mineral supply, does he not? And so does
Exactly.
Russia. They
Yes, it's
want to rape the Ukraine thoroughly so
yeah.
that it cannot function. You understand that?
I, I I'm just hearing it from you for the first time that so it's non-functioning.
Hmm.
Um,
It's very tragic in a way, although there's light at the end of the tunnel. It begins to change radically, and partially because the consciousness of people is changing, partially because there's some very vital forces in Europe that are
mhm,
working under the scenes to undo some of the power structures in both Russia and America. America
mhm.
is becoming quite hated in this debacle. You know that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um,
Also, many people in America hate Mr. Trump, because he deceived them. You understand? He's already deceived them majorly.
mm, mhm.
And so that he's not getting the favorable airplay around the world that he thinks he's getting. He's not.
Right, right. So the ceasefire talks that Trump had initiated with Russia and Ukraine, are these sincere? Is there some?
No, of course not.
Oh, well, sorry. What I
That's why
mean,
they didn't allow Zelensky to join in.
yes, exactly. I understand that. Um, is it Russia's intention, as some European countries fear, that Russia will continue to occupy more and more land?
Yes.
Okay.
Russia's intention is to run the world. You
Mhm.
understand that? And they're very, very tough and belligerent. However, his aggression has killed off most of his young men.
Mhm,
Isn't that ironic?
mhm.
And we see that the murdering is just an easy situation for him, for he has no real heart.
Right. What is the fate of Putin?
Uh, we he al- we thought he might pass a few months ago because he has some difficulties in his health, but he somehow is getting miraculous healings going through. But we see him um, failing. Something is coming up where he is going to fail in some kind of attack. And in that, the recovery will be terrible. There are also many people that are going to attack him in a ring of beings that are surrounding him. Now, speaking of what's going on, we're talking about a ring of people who are authoritarian, a ring of people that are going to bring him down, and that's going to happen. We thought he would go down because of his own health problems, but it doesn't look that way. It looks like he will officially be brought down by some surreptitious and very
Mhm.
powerful beings.
Within Russia?
Yes, within Russia, well, within Europe, but yes, mostly Russia.
Uh-huh.
Now, you know that Russia has had that kind of surreptitious power undoing off and on for many years. And this one is going to succeed. In
Okay.
fact, yes, and he will be, oh, some of it is paying him off. There's
Mhm.
money coming into it that is used to get him softened. You understand? It's
Mhm.
almost like softened
Mhm.
for the kill.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we see that the way it's going now, and you have to realize that things are changing very erratically these days because the vibrations are changing and so on. But it seems like what looks like he would be um, blessed with gold and deceived for who's against him. But we're watching carefully and saying things change very fast. So don't just
Mhm.
hook onto that and count on it, but you could use intentions and prayers and so on to
Right.
work on that. You'll see it build up. And he looks so pleased with himself because he's now been paid to do some very amazing things.
Right.
Uh,
And the country, the app, they're not quite bankrupt, but apparently they don't have much money.
but they get
And
more
that,
money from different countries around the world. You know that.
right. But that's part of this deal now, is there's big payoffs going on.
It's,
Um,
it's terrible, Lori, because it's very hard to be linear about it.
uh-huh, absolutely. Is this, do you see the change coming within the next 6 months?
Yes.
Incredible.
We would say possibly 4 months.
Okay.
Um, the dividing line is sort of slushy at this point. You understand that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm. People at home should remember that your consciousness can have an impact. So send your intentions because that can slow things down for him or it can change it. But it takes a very concerted effort
Right.
to influence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, okay. And then I just want to report on something, which is what South Africa is up to. South Africa has now shut down over 1,000 US companies and has stopped exporting minerals to the US in a response because of their termination of the US foreign aid and inviting white farmers to live in the US, saying white people in South Africa were being treated unfairly. And the fact of the matter is, white people are 6 to 7% of the population in South Africa, but they own 70% of all land.
Mhm.
That inequity is still existing post apartheid. So, this is such a bold, amazing move by the president of South Africa.
Mhm. It's very heartbreaking in a way, although it's the way the apartheid and the white-black situation has gone for centuries, isn't it?
Right, but I mean, it's amazing the people standing up to Trump, whether it's Claudia Sheinbaum out of Mexico, whether it's the South African president or Trudeau out of Canada. I mean, people, Macron in France, I mean,
Mhm.
people are really standing up.
And
Any
it's also
ninety.
very clear, Lori, that Trump would like to have America pure white. Do you know that? That's such a primitive thing to say, but that's what he would like.
Oh, I'm sure. And that's his invitation to the white
Mhm.
farmers and people from South Africa who can circumvent immigration and come to the United States and get residency. I mean, it's just absolutely a contradiction and outrageous, but it's obvious what's happening. So, in the meantime, let's talk about Leonard Peltier. Leonard Peltier
Wonderful.
has now
I,
walked out of prison. For those people who don't know, uh, he's old now. He's 80 years old. He was involved way back when, 50 years ago, there was a shootout on Pine Ridge Reservation, and he was accused of killing an FBI agent or two, if I've got my facts straight. He's now free. Biden did the pardon, but he is house and land bound, and they're working out the details of that now. But he is home. And I wanted to ask Miracris, who was the killer?
it was it, it appears to have been a white person, very very angry, very low consciousness, just one of those people that is extremely embittered, but also very sneaky. And we haven't got his name, but we see him. He hasn't been well. Perhaps he's even passed by now, but he was set to do it by, one moment. He was set up by some organized anti-native thing not very far from where Peltier was accused.
Ah,
There was
so
very
they were
strong,
framing AIM, the American Indian movement, basically.
yes, yes.
And does
But
Leonard
he was not in that movement. He was an observer, not an
know?
observer.
Obviously, he was set up. I mean,
What they call these days the haters.
so does Leonard know? Did Leonard know it was? He probably didn't know exactly that it was this person.
No, he did know that there was a setup coming.
Yeah,
He was, what would you call it, quasi prepared in a certain way. But 50 years is a long time.
amazing watching him step out of the gates of the penitentiary. What a high vibrational being. I
Mhm.
mean, the guy really seemed to be on par with Nelson Mandela, actually.
And you'll notice that both those men and others who have been incarcerated for a long time have used that alone time in a meditative truth, and you understand that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no
He's,
bitterness, no hatred, no anger. It's
but
just
we spoke of how the right attitudes can really affect world consciousness, and he's one of those beings, much like the Indian gurus and so on,
right.
that is radiating the kind of consciousness that is contagious for people and will help
Yeah.
lift many people. And he's not a martyr as much as he is. Martyrs very often feel like they're self-suppressing and feeling badly about themselves, but he's not that. He's very strong
Hmm.
and ready to radiate, is already radiating to many people, not
Wow.
allowing people to back down and become weak. He just
Hmm.
won't do that.
Amazing
Very
being.
smart man, very, very lovely man.
Yeah, anybody who can go to YouTube, type in Leonard Peltier,
Mhm.
freedom. I think you're going to be pretty, you'll be moved by it. It will affect you.
But does it
Um,
not tell us all what it's like to be a conscious and evolving being? It's not about your house or your hairdo, you know?
mhm, mhm, right. Oh, so on another, I'm doing the up note things right now. Another amazing thing that happened was the Inspector General, the one who was left, because what, 18 of them were fired out of
Hmm.
each department. This one was an Inspector General of the US Treasury. First name is Lauren. She got a judge, well, the Democrats, and got a judge to basically put a restraining order on Musk so that the Inspector General could go in and start this massive audit of the US Treasury to find out what in the hell is going on. And that was granted. The judge granted the restraining order. Elon cannot touch it. In the meantime, Inspector General and her team have gone in as a neutral body to do a massive audit of the US Treasury. I think that is pretty amazing.
It's wonderful. And the outcome is not very long down the road, middle of March.
Wow. She said it would take to August, but they would do reports all along. So they must
Mhm.
find something by March in order to
They will, and it frightens Mr. Musk.
uh,
And you know, Lori, it should, shouldn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Much of America is very aware of both Mr. Drumpf and Mr. Monk's must
I like monk.
thievery.
Yeah.
They're aware that their country is being taken over, but they're not aware of how extreme it is and how revolutionary it is and not evolutionary. People are very kind of, oh, how can this happen here? They're not putting up their fists ready to fight yet, but it's
Hmm.
coming. It's coming, and both of them will be pulled out of position.
Wow. And I want to ask you something because we have other metaphysical colleagues, a number of them who have seen this decertification of Donald and JD Vance and down
Yes.
ballot because of something that's coming very soon, a revelation about how the election was taken.
Hmm. Because
Do
it's
you
very
see
easy for
that?
them to prove that the revolution was stolen, that the presidential contest was stolen.
So can you tell us a little bit more about that, how it was done and
We made a Freudian slip there and said the revolution was
revolution?
stolen, but in many ways you could go back to that verbiage and accept that because it was um, Elon and Trump. Uh, it was a revolution. They had a plan. And they were really trying to take over the country, and they've been doing a pretty darn good job, which is not going to last much longer. You
Can you
understand?
talk, yeah, can you talk a little bit about what's going to get revealed?
The actual statistics and all of that for the actual election are going to be revealed very carefully, very, very soon. It's already started. There are
Was it,
people working extremely hard morning, noon, and night to get these results, and they're going to prove that there was a lot of which it's not just the numbers, but there was a lot of very hidden directional things that came in from Russia, from different countries, and so on that bought parts of the election because Russia wants America for itself, right? So it just made sure that who Putin wanted, was getting the most numbers. You understand? And that's getting more and more easy to prove.
okay, but because there's different theories. There's some theories that say it was voter suppression. Some statisticians and investigators have said it was malware. Some are saying it's satellite driven.
But if we said to you, Lori, it was all driven consciously by various aspects of the election, all of what you just mentioned is involved. You see, all of it, not one thing, not another.
And will
But
they uncover all these pieces?
they will uncover most of them, not all of them, but most of them until it's absolutely without question. But that won't be waiting till August. That's before August.
And do
And there's a
you
big problem with Mr. Putin, who's going to they would like to make a war over it.
mm, and do you see decertification? Here's the thing. Do you see decertification of Trump, and do you see Kamala coming into the office?
Yes, yes.
That is radical. I mean,
However, it looks like that's going to, once they begin that process, it's going to take a couple of months.
and how do they need the support of the Republican Congress?
Um, n- Ironically, no. And the reason for that is when the realities become glaringly bright, some of the Republicans are running for their hide. You understand that?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of cowards in this business. Do you realize that?
Hmm.
We're calling, as we see the numbers coming up and we see the recognition of what really went on, we see people wanting to hide, pull back, not be available. It gets quite almost embarrassing at how debilitated they are by being honest about what they've done. You
Wow.
understand? Yes.
Hmm.
And you'll notice that it's cowardice that's running this country and also your international um, associations. It's cowardice that are keeping them going. They're doing to protect themselves. It's
Hmm.
it's a huge, huge um, step toward consciousness the way this is going because people are almost like, wow, what are we going to do now? You know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And some people are very accustomed to the subterfuge that goes on in political circles. But some are saying we can't do this anymore. The world is too small. The resources are more debilitated. We've got the climate problems and so on. There's a lot of reasons why people have to be more in association with the healing of the planet. Do you understand that?
Hmm. Hmm.
Otherwise, it's over.
Right. Well, so going to ask a few more questions. Um,
Please.
will the appointees that Donald, has gotten confirmed through Congress, will any of these start to quit?
Yes. We also see some will be, as you might put it in the vernacular, kicked out because some of them have glaring, what do you call it? They've got glaring records and glaring problems in their own history, that they're untrustable and so on. And as the numbers come forward, those will be kicked out, literally,
Oh
invited
yeah,
to, you understand that?
oh yeah, it's a whole new administration. But my
Well, more than that is it's not normal in America to kick someone out, like Hegseth, for example.
is that one of them that you see?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, he'll just be kicked
These
out.
are dangerous, bad people. And we say bad, and it's not a word we throw around easily, but bad to us means someone whose intentions are um, not viable for the sake of the country at all.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
intentions come from their own history. You know that. How
Right.
people live carries on and on. It's not difficult for them to see what mistakes have been made.
And what will happen to this guy Voigt, one of the architects of Project 2025 now, who's head of the budget, the Department of Budget?
He looks like he gets weaker and weaker, but not a lot. They don't put him in jail, but
Uh-huh.
he is what we would consider a bad person.
Yeah.
No, because he doesn't want it. See, most of the people we're calling bad people don't necessarily want their positions for the greater good. They want it for control.
Exactly.
And controlling people at this level of consciousness is not necessarily great for the planet.
Right.
It'll kill great groups of people. So we see that he's belittled. You see,
Hmm.
he's going to
Hmm.
become belittled and kind of shrink in effect.
Right.
So he's not going to be in jail or anything, but his effectiveness is going to shrink because people will not approve. People will realize what's going on. Some people, not all people, but a huge number of people are beginning to really get clear on what's going on. And
Yeah,
the
and that
protests,
I was
storming
going to
the
say,
Bastille. Hmm.
across the country, it is amazing. The grassroots, it's like flowers popping up in spring.
Hmm.
Grassroots endeavors across the country. Millions of calls apparently to Congress. One congressional, I think it was Jimmy Raskin, said it had been over 1 million had
Hmm.
called. And these protests and people empowering themselves and pushing back. And now we have an economic boycott on the 20th of February nationwide. And it's actually, it really is a second American Revolution, what's happening. And we haven't seen the whole thing yet. So when the shit hits the fan and we realize with concrete proof that the election was taken, oh my God.
You'll see Mr. Trump becoming very physically ill.
I'm sure.
Hmm.
And what happens to him basically during that decertification process?
One moment.
Is he even in the United States at that point?
He's not going to be. He wants to get out of the United States, but we feel like he gets too ill
Hmm.
and he can't get himself where he wants to go. There are several countries willing to take him on, uh, but
Wow.
we're not sure if he's going to make it through
Yeah.
March.
Yeah, I know it's right around the corner.
Mhm.
When do you think this decertification, I mean, when do you think this information about the stealing of the election really starts hitting mainstream news?
Oh, probably within weeks, Lori.
I know. It's
It's already being dragged up out of the satchels of all kinds of people who keep track of numbers and so on. Some people are working so diligently on this, but you've got to realize that in Russia they're working against it.
of course.
And you've
But guess
got
who?
to realize also that Musk is working against it.
Of course.
And he's
Oh,
a
yeah.
numbers wizard, as you know. So there's a little resistance going on simultaneously with amazing achieving numbers and so on that help.
Wow. But in the meantime, I would say an amazing ally that we have is Anonymous, this group of very high-tech cyber hackers
That's a
for the
wonderful group of people.
pro-democracy.
And this
And
is not the first time they've risen to
no, and
activism.
they only put out a message every once in a while with the crazy mask and the voice. So,
You
do you think
understand that they
there be?
frighten even Putin.
How about Musk? Do they frighten Musk?
He has an arrogance. He thinks he can run from everything.
Yeah, it's untouchable.
And
Speaking
in
of
a
which,
way, it's true, but in another way, he will be brought down.
and in the past, we saw him in prison.
Yes.
Do you think there's a different trajectory for him?
Um, Prison looks a little awkward right now, but we still see his central nervous system as kind of sparking as like electricity that's plugged in wrong.
Mm,
His central nervous system is going to really make him quite crazy in a while. And that might be enough of a prison for him. We're not sure. there is the act of wanting to put him in prison. That's coming up, but whether or not he, like many of them, talk their way out of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes for good reasons, to be honest, but he's not a good man because he doesn't know any better, meaning he has
So,
no morality, really.
so this is quite exciting. We've got a couple weeks when all this election interference starts bubbling up in the news. Is that right, Americans?
Yes,
Couple
yes.
weeks.
But you
And
have to understand another thing, Lori, which is very sad, that some of the news doesn't want to carry that information. Part of the marketing of the news. You
sure.
understand? Yes.
But the reality is, if you can take it all the way to decertification and put Kamala in, there has been some huge thing behind that.
You
Huge.
bet. You bet. But you'll watch a kind of a retarded response to things coming up and jolting and jerking and so on. Pray for
Okay.
that. Whenever that happens, just pray, pray, pray. Just fill it full of the kind of light that makes situations glide free.
And last question on a different note. We've had four major airplane crashes with American carriers.
Mhm.
Um, or yeah, in the last what's it been? 2 months?
It's very sad because somebody in the FAA, there's some people there who that would rather have planes crashing in order to get their point across. So
So
that'll go on for a while.
yeah. So let me ask you, Mary Chris, because a lot of people, spring is coming, and I know a lot of people have fear and are sensing something about all this.
Mhm.
Is it, are there more crashes coming?
Yes.
Are they American planes?
Yes, they are. And we say that this issue will be resolved probably by
Okay.
July or August. That will be straightened up. But in the meantime, it's a bit of vagary going on with the airlines. It's subterfuge, is what it is, which you've already mentioned in a different way.
Is there a period of time in which maybe it's not such a good time to fly? Let's just be really candid.
Yes, right now is not a good time to fly, except, and Lori, you have a lot of intuition for people to do their meditation, do their breathing, and then prepare for your flight, the flight you want, when you've been given clarity in your mind and in your heart. You don't want to take any trips where you haven't cleared before you get on
Hmm.
the plane. There's
Hmm.
not that many planes that are going to go down. Those people who fly are going to walk their way through, the pathways of plane, but we're suggesting that you do extreme
Hmm.
meditation and creating your reality before you choose a flight. Do you understand?
Right. And it
And
can
you'll
be,
feel it if it's not going to go down. You'll feel it if it's not going to be successful. You'll feel it in your body and in your heart.
right. Okay.
Here's what we want to say to you also, that many of the people who think like this are very attuned to their higher guidance and their higher selves. Count on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Mary Chris. Anything else you'd like to say?
We would like to say this, that there are some pilots that need your prayers because there are some very innocent, um, what, do good kinds of pilots who really need to be lifted and supported
Mm,
because a lot of them are being blamed. As you know, blame is a terrible thing, it's a flamethrower, and they're
mhm.
being blamed. And a couple of them are very shaky right now, just like you are before you take a plane right now,
Right,
because they don't know where the sabotage is coming in.
right.
And some of them are very young.
Hmm.
So pray for your pilots right now. They're
Oh,
just being subjected to some horrible and ugly political things for the sake of sensation and who's going to win this and that.
Uh, yes, the first officer on the Delta plane that crashed and flipped over in Toronto, she was all of what, 23 years old.
Wow.
Um, but no one died, but people were injured, and they still don't know exactly what happened. Um, but they will.
It's easy to
Ah,
interfere with the plane flight with the technology that exists these days.
do you feel it's better? I'm just going to ask you, Miracris, is it better to fly? When I said what time frame is not good to fly, we know we can pray things in, but how about with the help of the universe at our side? When is a good time not to fly?
Um,
From
Very
what?
soon right now, stay out of the planes, but parts of March are easy.
Okay.
Parts of March are really easy. And also after that, April's not bad, but say your prayers get the sense. What comes up to make this one yawn is and this is helpful to all of you at home. There's a weighty feeling around certain flights. You'll feel it inside yourself. It's the same as this one yawned. It's the same feeling where you just are going to book your flight and you can't stop yawning. Do not book that flight.
Flight.
This is just
Interesting.
good advice. And April is flexing. Sometimes it's not a good time to fly, and then it's fine. May
Yeah.
looks all right.
Mhm.
Um, but also ideally, the FAA is back on its track. Some of the actual things that Mr. Trump um, took out of the system are being put back in place. And even a lot of the workers that were sent home are being put back to work.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then you'll find you don't have to be as worried about flights and so on. But it's a staggering event over the next couple of months.
Yeah. All right, Mayor Chris, thank you. I hope that helped everybody because I know a lot of people are going to be flying because springtime is coming, and yeah, so hopefully
And a
that
fun
helped.
image for everyone is to wrap them in a great big sheet and with a knot on the top like a newborn baby and pull Mr. Trump out of his position in your psyche, in your mind. It's a fun
Ah,
way to handle it.
oh, that's great.
Yes.
All
We like to
right.
be playful with these things because some of the most powerful visions are playful, seemingly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We
All
want to
right.
send everyone our love and say, remind yourself that there's evolution wants to go on in humans, and certainly they need it and want it. So just remind yourselves to feel it, ask to feel how it is to be evolving in you.
Right.
Thank you for your time and for your focus.
Thank you. See you next week, Mayor Chris.
You bet.
Bye,
Blessings.
everyone.